Right now, someone is recording every single encrypted message you send. Not to read it today, to read it in 15 years, when the technology finally catches up. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is an active strategy used by nation-states, and the people building encryption are already racing to stop it. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how they plan to do that, and why the math behind your browser is stranger and more incredible than almost anything else in computing. Let's start with something most people get completely wrong. Encryption, hashing, and encoding are not the same thing. People use these words like they mean the same thing. They do not. Confusing them leads to real security disasters, like the companies that encrypted their passwords using base64 and thought they were safe. They were not. Here is the difference. Encoding is just a format change. Base64, UTF-8, these are just ways to represent data differently. There is no key. Anyone can decode it in seconds. It is not security. It is a translation. Hashing is a one-way transformation. You put data in, you get a fixed-length fingerprint out, and there is no going back. No key, no reversal. If you hash the word password, you always get the same output, but you cannot take that output and recover the word password from it. Hashing is used for checking, not hiding. Encryption is reversible, but only with the right key. You lock data with a key, and someone with the matching key can unlock it. That is the core idea. But the moment you start asking how the key gets shared, how it stays secret, who holds it, what happens if it leaks, that is where everything gets interesting. There are two fundamental flavors of encryption: symmetric and asymmetric. Understanding the difference between them explains almost everything else. Symmetric encryption uses the same key to lock and unlock data. Fast, efficient. The problem is obvious. How do you get the key to the other person without someone intercepting it? If you could send a secret key securely, you would not need encryption in the first place. That is the key sharing problem, and it stumped cryptographers for a long time. Asymmetric encryption, also called public key cryptography, solved that problem. It uses two mathematically linked keys, a public key that you share with the entire world, and a private key that never leaves your possession. Anything encrypted with your public key can only be decrypted with your private key, so anyone can send you a secret message using your public key, but only you can read it. The trade-off is speed. Asymmetric encryption runs roughly 1,000 times slower than symmetric for bulk data, so in practice no one uses it to encrypt actual messages. They use it to securely exchange a symmetric key, and then switch to symmetric for the real data. That handoff happens in your browser every time you visit an HTTPS website. You just never see it. Now let's go through the actual types, one by one. AES, the Advanced Encryption Standard, the workhorse of modern encryption. If you used HTTPS today, sent a WhatsApp message, connected to a VPN, or used Wi-Fi, you used AES. The US federal government made it the official encryption standard in 2001, after a public competition where anyone in the world could submit a candidate algorithm. The winner was designed by two Belgian cryptographers, Joan Damon and Vincent Ryman. The US government picked the best submission regardless of where it came from. Worth pausing on. AES is a block cipher. It chops your data into 128-bit chunks and runs each chunk through a series of mathematical transformations: substitution, shuffling, mixing, and a key addition, repeated 10 to 14 times depending on your key size. The three key sizes are 128-bit, 192-bit, and 256-bit. AES 256 sits at the top of that range. The key space for AES 256 is 2 to the power of 256. Even if every computer on Earth ran simultaneously at 1 trillion guesses per second, you would not crack it before the heat death of the universe. AES 256 is incomprehensibly strong. In real deployments, AES almost always runs in a mode called GCM, Galois counter mode. AES GCM does not just encrypt your data, it also generates an authentication tag that catches tampering. If anyone modifies even a single bit of the ciphertext in transit, the decryption fails and the message gets discarded. That combination of encryption plus authentication is called authenticated encryption, and it is what makes modern TLS actually trustworthy. Now for a name you might recognize that is no longer trustworthy: 3DES, triple DS. Before AES, the original DS used a 56-bit key, no longer strong enough by the 1990s. The fix was running DS 3 times with different keys. NIST deprecated 3DS in 2019 and banned it in new systems in 2024. But it is still running in legacy banking mainframes. Reason: COBOL-era code that would cost millions to replace. Cha-Cha 20, Poly 1305 is the other major symmetric cipher in use today, and it exists because of a real performance problem. AES is fast, on hardware that has dedicated AES instructions built in. Modern Intel and AMD processors have those. Most phones do too, but low-end Android devices, especially older ones, do not always have hardware AES acceleration. In software, AES drags, so Google needed an alternative for Android that would run fast in pure software on budget hardware. Daniel Bernstein designed ChaCha20 in 2008. It is a stream cipher, generating random-looking bytes and XORing them with your data. Poly 1305 is the authentication tag that pairs with it. Together, ChaCha20 Poly 1305 runs faster than software AES on devices without hardware acceleration, with no security trade-off. Google adopted it. TLS 1.3 adopted it. WireGuard, one of the most respected VPN protocols in existence, uses it exclusively. If you are on an Android phone or connected to a WireGuard VPN right now, ChaCha20 is encrypting your traffic. On to asymmetric. RSA was invented in 1977 by three MIT mathematicians, Ron Rivest, Adi Shamir, and Leonard Adelman, whose initials name the algorithm. RSA security rests on one simple fact: multiplying two large prime numbers together is fast, but given only the result, finding back the original two primes is computationally infeasible at large enough sizes. Pick two primes, multiply them. That product becomes part of your public key. An attacker who wants your private key has to figure out which two primes you multiplied, and at key sizes of 2048 bits or higher, no classical computer can do that in any reasonable time frame. But RSA is slow. Encrypting bulk data with RSA 2048 runs about 1,000 times slower than AES 256. So RSA's job is not to encrypt your data. RSA's job is to start the conversation and hand off to AES. ECC, elliptic curve cryptography, does the same job as RSA, but dramatically more efficiently. Instead of large prime factorization, ECC security rests on a different hard math problem, the elliptic curve discrete logarithm problem. The payoff is smaller keys with equivalent security. A 256-bit ECC key provides approximately the same protection as a 3072-bit RSA key. Smaller keys mean faster operations, less bandwidth, and less compute, which is why TLS 1.3, Apple's Secure Enclave, Bitcoin, and the Signal protocol all use ECC. Speaking of Bitcoin, its security rests on a specific elliptic curve called CXP256K1. Every wallet, every transaction signature, depends on the hardness of that curve. Diffie-Hellman key exchange deserves its own moment. Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman published this in 1976, a year before RSA. So radical that the NSA reportedly tried to suppress the paper. They considered public key cryptography a national security risk because it meant civilians could encrypt communications that governments could not read. The core idea: two people can agree on a shared secret over a completely public channel without ever transmitting the secret. The classic analogy: you and I each mix a private color into the same public color, then exchange our intermediate mixtures. Each of us adds our own private color to the other person's mixture, and we both arrive at the same final color. An observer who saw everything exchanged publicly still cannot figure out that final color. The math is more complex, but the logic is identical. The modern version is called ECDH, elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman, and the version used in TLS 1.3 is ECDHE. The E stands for ephemeral. That single letter changes everything because it gives you forward secrecy. Forward secrecy means this: even if someone steals your private key tomorrow, they cannot decrypt the traffic you sent today. Every session uses a temporary key, generated fresh and then discarded. Nothing left to steal after the fact. TLS 1.2 made forward secrecy optional. TLS 1.3, published in 2018, made it mandatory. Every TLS 1.3 connection must use ephemeral key exchange. No exceptions. Now let's talk about hashing, because things get surprisingly messy here. MD5 was designed in 1991. It produces a 128-bit hash, 32 hex characters. Researchers demonstrated collision attacks in 2004, meaning two completely different inputs that produce the same MD5 hash. By 2025, MD5 was still found in roughly 12% of web authentication systems, still shipping in software. A cryptographically broken algorithm from 1991, running in production code right now. Using MD5 for anything security-related is like locking your house with a padlock that every locksmith in the world already has a copy of the key for. SHA-1 replaced MD5 and was designed by the NSA. 160-bit output. Theoretical weaknesses surfaced in 2005. In 2017, Google's security team executed the asymmetric attack. They produced two different PDF files with the exact same SHA-1 hash. In cloud computing, that attack cost around $110,000. By 2025, below $10,000. Chrome and Firefox dropped support for SHA-1 certificates in 2017. Still found in some enterprise systems and, this one is interesting, in Git, which uses SHA-1 to identify code commits. The Git project is in the middle of a slow migration to SHA-256. SHA-256 is where you want to be. Part of the SHA-2 family, it produces a 256-bit output, 64 hex characters. No known collision attacks as of today. Bitcoin's proof-of-work mining runs double SHA-256 on every block. TLS certificates use it for signatures. When you download software and verify a checksum, you are almost certainly running SHA-256. HMAC SHA-256 adds a secret key to the hash, which lets two parties verify that a message has not been forged, because without the key you cannot fake the right hash. SHA-3 exists as insurance, built on a completely different internal structure than SHA-2. If someone finds a flaw in SHA-2 someday, SHA-3 would not share it. It won a NIST competition in 2012 but has seen slow adoption, mostly because it runs slower in software. Password hashing runs on a principle that sounds backwards. Fast hashing is a security problem. SHA-256 runs 10 billion hashes per second per GPU. An attacker with stolen password hashes and a consumer GPU can crack simple passwords in minutes. The solution is intentional slowness. Bcrypt was designed in 1999 to be slow. Its adjustable work factor means each hash takes around 300 milliseconds, roughly 3 to 5 password guesses per second per GPU instead of 10 billion. Argon 2 won the password hashing competition in 2015 and is the current best practice. Memory hard. It demands significant RAM, which makes GPU and specialized hardware attacks dramatically more expensive. If a company says they store passwords with plain SHA-256, that is a serious red flag. Slow is not a bug in password hashing. Slow is the entire point. The Signal protocol is the most sophisticated cryptographic system most people have never heard of, and 2 billion people use it every day. It runs inside Signal, WhatsApp, and Google Messages. The protocol combines two mechanisms. The first is called Extended Triple Diffie-Hellman, which builds the initial shared secret using multiple-layered Diffie-Hellman calculations. The second is the double ratchet algorithm. Every message uses a new key derived from the previous conversation state. Compromise one key and past messages stay protected. The keys rotate forward like a ratchet that only turns one way. Signal messages also carry deniability. They cannot be proven to have come from you in court, because the protocol allows either party to have forged them. TLS 1.3 is what protects your browser. When you visit an HTTPS site, your browser and the server complete a handshake in one round trip. The browser sends cipher options and an ECDH public key. The server sends its key share and certificate. Both sides derive session keys from the shared secret, and everything from that point gets encrypted with AES GCM, or ChaCha20 Poly 1305. All of it completes in under 50 milliseconds before the first byte of the page loads. TLS 1.2 allowed over 20 cipher suites now found vulnerable. TLS 1.3 eliminated all of them. RSA key transport, RC4, 3DES, CBC mode, gone. As of 2025, about 78% of websites support TLS 1.3. Now for the part that should genuinely concern you. Quantum computers do not yet exist in a form that threatens encryption. But in 1994, a mathematician named Peter Shor proved that a quantum computer with enough power could break RSA and ECC, not by brute force, but by exploiting quantum mechanics to solve the underlying math problems in hours instead of billions of years. The technical threshold is roughly 4,000 logical qubits. The best quantum computers today are still far short of that after error correction. Most analysts put cryptographically relevant quantum computing somewhere in the 2030 to 2040 range. That timeline sounds comfortable. It is not, because of something called harvest now, decrypt later. Nation-states are believed to be recording encrypted traffic today with no ability to read it yet. When quantum computers arrive, they go back and decrypt everything. Any secret that needs to stay secret for 20 years sits at risk now. Government communications, nuclear research, financial data, the collection is already happening. NIST responded by finalizing the first post-quantum cryptography standards in August 2024, the first major cryptographic transition since RSA. 3 new standards: MLKM for key exchange, MLDSA for digital signatures, and SLHDSA as a hash-based alternative, all built on math problems believed to resist both classical and quantum computers. Apple migrated iMessage to post-quantum encryption in early 2024, combining MLKM with existing elliptic curve keys before any quantum computer capable of breaking RSA even exists. Signal followed in 2023 with a quantum-resistant update to its key exchange. The migration has started. The urgency is real. Here is the clearest way to think about all of this. Your browser, your messaging app, your banking app, none of them pick one type of encryption. They layer them: asymmetric to start a connection, symmetric to move data fast, hashing to verify integrity, password hashing to protect stored credentials, and now, post-quantum algorithms sitting alongside the classical ones as a hedge against a threat that has not fully landed yet, but whose shadow is already here. Every time you see that padlock in your browser, all of that runs simultaneously, invisibly, in under a second. So here is the question I want to leave you with. If the data being collected right now could be decrypted in 15 years, what does that mean for the secrets people assume are safe today? Drop your answer in the comments. I read everyone. If this video clicked something into place for you, the like button helps more people find it, and sharing it with one person who complains about tech being confusing would genuinely make my day. Subscribe if you want to stay on the channel. Next video, we are breaking down exactly how HTTPS certificates work, who signs them, what happens when they expire, and the one crack in the system that keeps security researchers awake at night.